Computational English by Lucian. Finite data will be a solution in Conglish 2 of 4. 11. I prepared to sum the two numbers. I did this by observing an object travel along a finite path in the computer simulation to me. First, I tied a knot in the first quipu string. Second, I tied a knot in the second quipu string. Third, I tied a knot in the third quipu string at the sum of the distances between the starts of the strings and the knots. In this way, I prepared to sum the two numbers by observing an object travel along a finite path in the computer simulation to me. 12. I prepared to be happy by traveling free of other people. I did this by looking at each meditator, e.g. writer meditating for, e.g. writing about himself or herself. First, the meditator, e.g. writer, received a text during meditation, e.g. writing. Second, the writer wrote a text and verified it by reading it. Third, as the meditator, e.g. writer, received a text, the writer proofread his text. In this way. 13. I prepared to watch the train being driven to the correct station. I did this by catching the correct finitely long train. First, I found the correct platform. Second, I found the correct train. Third, I found the correct seat. In this way, I prepared to watch the train being driven to the correct station by catching the correct finitely long train. 14. I prepared to record that the citizen was lawful. I did this by observing the citizen following the law. First, I looked at the person. Second, I watched him reading the text. Third, I observed him paraphrase the text. In this way, I prepared to record that the citizen was lawful by observing the citizen following the law. First, I looked at the person. 15. I prepared to make money from critical thinking. I did this by writing that the conclusion was for the good reason. First, I wrote that the repleteness of the finite data list acted as the conclusion. Second, I wrote that the reason for this conclusion was the multiple assigned to the list. Third, I wrote that the multiple multiplied by the length of list per multiple resulted in the length of the list. In this way, I prepared to make money from critical thinking by writing that the conclusion was for the good reason. 16. I prepared to watch the lady. I did this by observing the passenger plan her trip. First, I listened to the lady say she booked the train ticket. Second, I listened to her say she arrived at the train station. Third, I listened to her say she boarded the train. In this way, I prepared to watch the lady by observing the passenger plan her trip. 17. I prepared to judge the way the other person was speaking. I did this by watching the reasoner identify the speech rate in her partner. First, I counted the number of words over the time. Second, I counted the number of minutes. Third, I calculated the speech rate to equal the number of words divided by the number of minutes. In this way, I prepared to judge the way the other person was speaking by watching the reasoner identify the speech rate in her partner. 18. I prepared to win over the side of the argument. I did this by observing the partisan move to one side. First, I observed the potential agreeer query the argument. Second, I delivered the argument as a professor. Third, I observed the partisan agree with the professor. In this way, I prepared to win over the side of the argument by observing the partisan move to one side. 19. I prepared to be a good leader. I did this by liking politics because of God. First, I thought of what to say. Second, I verified that it was a good thing to say, like God is good. Third, I did what I said I would do. In this way, I prepared to be a good leader by liking politics because of God. 20. I prepared to cover both sides of the argument. I did this by oscillating between agreement and rebuttal. First, I determined a reason agreeing with the main conclusion. Second, I determined a rebuttal to an objection to the reason. Third, I determined a reason for this rebuttal to the objection to the reason. In this way, I prepared to cover both sides of the argument by oscillating between agreement and rebuttal.